have to know it.
I was pretty upset about it actually, and I decided, you know what, like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw myself fully into this thing. I know what I have here. I know what I can do, so I'm gonna really push myself. So that following year, I got to the biggest I'd ever been, and I was on pace to. I was actually gonna be competing at the Arnold Classic in Ohio, which is one of the biggest amateur bodybuilding competitions in the world. Unfortunately, this is where my story takes a little bit of a turn. I had some pretty severe health stuff happen. I actually died on the gym floor. I split my aorta when I was back squatting. So I had a genetic predisposition to this. Both my grandfathers had issues with their aorta. One of them had aortic aneurysm and stuff like that. So yeah, for me it was obviously unexpected. I mean, you're a young kid rolling at a good pace, very passionate about this sport, and then the next thing you know, you wake up in a hospital, have been in a coma for 4 days, tubes in your mouth, catheter in, all this crazy shit, and you don't even know what's going on. So I was in the hospital for about 9.5 weeks, just under 10 weeks. I went from 247 pounds in that time frame to 196 pounds. I remember looking at myself in the mirror when I was able to get out of my hospital bed, and I was just like, what happened to me? Which mentally, if anybody's been through anything similar, that takes you for a ride. Because a lot of where I was at that time mentally, whether it's good or bad, what was based on my physique and what I had spent so much time and effort building, and within 2 months' time of me just laying in a hospital bed, it's all gone. Right? Now, I was very grateful to be alive. Not many people get that opportunity. Anybody that knows anything about that, it's called a spontaneous aortic dissection. People don't survive them. Somebody was there for me that day. It wasn't my time, realistically. Like, there was, paramedics showed up, they had to intubate me on the gym floor. They had to hit me with paddles 4 times, which usually they'll go 3 times, and then they'll pronounce somebody dead because they're not trying to mutilate a dead body or whatever they call it. But they decided a 4th time between the 2 of them, and that's what brought me back. So I went to the hospital, they did brain cooling, this whole thing where they basically cooled my entire body, kind of like a cryo chamber where they freeze people to preserve them. Basically, essentially that on a smaller scale. They took my family into a room, told my family there was a 95% chance or 90% chance that I wouldn't come out of my coma, and of that, there was basically a 10% chance that I wouldn't be brain dead or brain damaged. So fast forward, that, like I said, that was 2018. I ended up leaving the hospital just under 10 weeks later, and I was told at that time that I should never really train again. I was told at that time I'll be on the medications that I was on for the next 74 years, which at the time I was 26 years old. And for me, I just felt like a shell of a man. Those medications were horrible. Like I said, I mean, being a 26-year-old man, I don't know how much we want to get into shit here, but when you literally can't get aroused and you walk around and you're literally just like depressed all the time, that's not normal. It wasn't normal for me. And I was like, this can't be good. So,
and this can't be the rest of your life. You have nothing but every day to wake up to, and then someone else was telling you, sorry, you have nothing to wake up for every day.
100%. And I mean, I'm not the type of person that really lets people put boundaries to me.
Clearly, yeah.
I've never been that kind of guy. I've always been kind of a very disagreeable person and whatnot. So hearing that, it kind of was just like a fuck you, watch me. And honestly, I kind of had decided to at the time, like, I would honestly rather, it sounds very cold, but like, I would rather die doing what I was passionate about than live the rest of my life the person I was at that time, feeling the way that I did. It was very hard to be happy, and like, I had a lot of reasons to be happy. I was alive, I had an amazing family, my girlfriend at the time, you know what I mean? But there was something that wasn't there. So I changed things for myself. I mean, over time, I got back in the gym 8 weeks later. Was I as big and strong as I was? No, I mean, I had staples in me everywhere from the surgery. I had a defibrillator put in. So I wasn't the same, but I knew that if I kept working at it over time, I could at least get somewhere close. And so I just kind of jumped fully into it and pursued that. Throughout all this time, we kind of skipped a step, but I was coaching bodybuilders. I had made a promise to myself that when I was bodybuilding, I wasn't going to coach bodybuilders. Based on an experience I had early on with one of my coaches when I did nationals, bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. You have to commit fully if you really want to succeed in this sport. You can't be going out for dinners, all that kind of stuff. So it takes a toll on your significant other. It takes a toll on all that kind of stuff. But as a coach, if you're a competitive bodybuilder, it's really tough for me to care about my athlete that's doing the same show as me when my goal is to basically win everything at that show. So it's like, am I trying to win everything and put you in at number 2? Because I'm an all-in type of guy. So that was just a
conflict of interest.
Yeah, so that was just a decision that I made, that my goal was to be a pro bodybuilder, and I wasn't going to coach bodybuilders. So I coached a lot of lifestyle people. I had a lot of transformations, that kind of stuff. And then when my accident had happened, bodybuilding was what I knew. So I said, well, okay, maybe I can't bodybuild and do what it takes to be one of the best bodybuilders in the world anymore, or a pro bodybuilder, but I'm going to help people do that. And the following year, basically right after I made that decision, my first year of coaching bodybuilders, I turned my first athlete pro. And I've said it before, I'm not sure if me turning pro would have ever felt the same way as me turning my first athlete pro. I think I prefer the feeling of somebody else turn pro. I've done it many times now, and it feels the same every single time. Just being a part of that process is really, really cool. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, going back now to where we were talking, I got back in the gym. I stopped taking my medications, which I don't suggest anybody necessarily does that. I'm not going to tell you to do that. But for me, the way I felt, I just said, you know what, I'm not taking these anymore. And I'm I've spent a lot of time understanding and learning things about natural supplementation and health and vitamins and whatnot.